The show is about to
Swing and a miss, and the Phillies are headed to the National League Championship Series.
This one to left field. Schwarber going back. There's number 50.
It's the grudge match everyone's been waiting to see. We've got a series preview of Braves versus Phillies. Erik Kratz is here to give you the scouting report. This is FT Live.
You are now listening to Foul Territory. Welcome to the show.
That'll be cool to kind of look at this next series, this huge series between the Phillies and the Braves, but look at it from a scouting report standpoint. Like, this is the type of scouting reports that they're going through, that JT Realmuto and Garrett Stubbs and Travis d'Arnaud and Sean Murphy are all going through leading up to this series. Yes, they've played a ton of games against each other, so they have a lot of history. They've gone through, different changes. Hitters change throughout the season. They change throughout their career. Delving into these two teams, we're going to get to the scouting reports for almost all the hitters. Not everybody, but almost all the hitters. You look at it and you say, okay, the Braves, they've won the season series. Anything can happen in the playoffs, and not because of nerves or not because of players who can't come up big in the spotlight, but because you have this different level of adrenaline, different level of focus, that you're not trying to necessarily make it through 9 innings as a starter. You're not necessarily trying to attack a hitter a certain way. You have open bases. In the regular season, if you have second base open first and third, you might not necessarily attack the hitter the same way. Playoffs is different, and that's why this series against two division rivals, they clashed last year, and they're about to clash again in the NLDS, is something that I wanted to look into and just kind of give you an idea. All facts, not opinions, just facts on a scouting report and how you build this scouting report to face these two teams. So first, I'm just going to kind of go through each guy facing the guy they're going to face tomorrow night in Strider. So I'm going to go with the Phillies against righties, and then I'll hit a little bit on lefties when there's some discrepancies from a right-hander or left-hander, because you have to be able to know this as a catcher, what the guys can do, because teams are going to bring in pinch hitters and stuff. Now, the Braves will not, but you're going to face a guy that's throwing right-handed. Then they're going to face another guy throwing left-handed. So we'll start right out of the gate here. We'll start. Strider is 8-1. He has a 1.67. I'm going to keep looking at my sheet here. This is what I do when I'm doing the scouting reports. I have it all written down on two sides of a sheet. So I'm going to keep looking down at it. But he's got a 1.67 ERA against the Phillies. His only loss was last year at this time in the NLDS. Everybody knows the bat slam. Everybody knows the huge inning. So Strider's only blip on the radar is exactly what's happening right now, the NLDS. So when we go Strider versus Schwarber, I'm going only versus right-handers. Okay? Schwarber's an ultra-patient first pitch and throughout the at-bat. He is a ball-to-strike type of batter, meaning if you throw a ball out of the hand and it ends up a strike, a backdoor curveball, if a pitcher has a slider that he can bring off the plate and back on, Schwarber takes that pitch early in the count. You can't double up too much, but it'll allow you to get back into counts. It'll allow you to get ahead in counts. Curveball is the most damage against right-handed pitchers. He sees it well. He doesn't chase it very often. He doesn't chase many pitches very often, so you can't look to get him to chase as a right-handed pitcher. But he has very low slug on changeups, cutters, and sliders. So we're going to go to Turner. Turner, throughout his career, has been an epic fastball hitter. It's unbelievable the change he's made throughout partway through this year and how much success he's had with it. So I'm interested to see this matchup as one of the key matchups through this game. How does Turner take his strengths, which are normally hitting fastballs, against a guy like Strider who has an electric fastball at the top of the zone? But he is ultra aggressive. So you go from a not aggressive Schwarber to an ultra aggressive Turner batting second. And his entire career, he has mashed fastballs. But this year, all of his slug is higher against off speed. It's crazy. I've never seen a change from year to year like that. Doesn't mean he can't hit the fastball. It just means his off-speed slugging percentage is what I look at, because that is damage. What kind of damage? Because you cannot, if it's a 0-0 game, which I feel like it's going to be a close game, Ranger going on the other side, you can't get hurt by damage. You can't, so you pitch around damage. So you're trying to mitigate where to throw the ball in the zone to not go into his damage zone. So a lot of off-speed pitches have been his damage against right-handed pitchers. But the curveball, now I said that, the curveball is the best pitch. Well, Spencer Strider, he's got a pretty good curveball. So if he's going to go to off-speed, that curveball is going to be a pitch that he just needs to land and then continue to feed the top of the zone with that heater. Harper, obviously everyone's going to see this as the marquee matchup. To me, I think this is something that Strider has the advantage here. Harper did click him on a changeup earlier this year, but it was a 7-0 game. Strider throws very few changeups, but Harper hammers changeups. So it's kind of that whole cat and mouse game of what has he done to me? Does Harper feel confidence because he's hit a homer off of Strider? Well, it's not a fastball, so does Strider have that confidence? Harper versus righties, ultra aggressive. Like one of the highest first pitch swings in the game. Doesn't mean he doesn't walk. It just means he is coming out hacking the first 2 pitches. He has great plate coverage across the zone, but struggles with velocity up and away. He's hitting 130 on fastballs up and away. Spencer Strider can locate pitches up in the zone. Harper, the closer it moves to the middle of the plate up in the zone, his damage is there. If Strider can stay up and away, there's way less damage. And I'm talking low slug, low batting average. It's a cold zone for Harper that he does a good job of fouling off, but it's a cold zone for him. The least slug off of slider and cutter. Okay, it doesn't quite apply with Strider, but you think about it throughout the series. How are they going to match up when you go righty-lefty, when you bring a righty in, like a Jesse Chavez, if he's on the postseason roster, if he's healthy, like a AJ Minter, when we get to lefties, I'll talk about that against Harper. But he will chase the changeup middle down. Okay, remember that. It's a bounce changeup. If Strider goes to that changeup, a 3rd, 4th pitch for him, it could be a pitch that could get him to chase. Alec Bohm will most likely be hitting 4th against Strider. When they go to a lefty, Bohm will probably be hitting 3rd because he's slugging .649 this season off of lefties, and it lengthens out that top part of the order so teams can't just bring in lefty to face Schwarber, lefty to face Harper, and only have to deal with Turner, who actually has lower numbers this year against lefties. But just kind of what are the Braves thinking? How are they gonna utilize their lineup? Alec Bohm versus righties. You have to stay down across. He's a tall hitter that handles the ball up in the zone against righties. He doesn't look to pull very often. He wants to take the ball to the opposite field, and this year he's really developed a lot of power to that opposite field. He's a tall, longer swing that handles the top of the zone. Could be an interesting matchup with Strider's top of the zone fastball. He sees the curveball well. You can throw it once. Try not to double up with him. But a quality slider and cutter anytime is really good. And because he tries to stay that way, the changeup is not a good pitch. He is hammering right on right changeups. I don't see that coming from Strider. I see that. I'm trying to think of who who would be in the rotation that would throw something like that right on right, change up, but he stays on it because he rarely pulls off the ball, so he's somebody that's staying through. Most likely it will be Castellanos next. I know Stott's been swinging the bat well, and it could give them, they could flip-flop there. We'll see. I'm not sure exactly where they're going to go, but Castellanos is very aggressive throughout his at-bat until 3-2. And why do I say that? 3-2 is a count where some guys they kind of turn into a no swing. And his swing percentage, 3-2, I think was something like 32 or 42%, which is ridiculously low. So that just means you need to make a quality pitch. Again, that could be from a righty. That could be just your standard fastball down and away. It could be, a pitch that you don't feel like you need to go on the corner to him. It's something that you attack because he's just not as aggressive as he is all other counts. So that's interesting things that we bring up in pitchers and catchers meetings so that we get this, we get the full picture. We're just painting the picture of what we should do. And then when you go out there, sometimes in the game, you sit there and you go, oh crap, time to panic. We're going away from the ideas that we had before. But this is all just facts, not opinions, just facts. All right? You need to stay away from the fastball, which is actually opposite of versus lefties. Lefties, you need to come in. He wants the ball out away. So it's interesting, as Sean Murphy or Travis d'Arnaud, whoever's catching, it's one of those things that you sit there and you go, okay, I remember we were staying away with Strider last night. Now Max Fried comes in. Oh, okay. We'll just stay away. If you don't do your work, and this is where a good catcher is really, really important, and good coaches reminding guys of these things, you might go, okay, Max Fried, hey, we're going to go away. Whack! Castellanos, 1-0. But, so we go, he struggles with the curveball. It is a free strike. Okay, I don't have any numbers written down, but normally when I have written down a free strike, it means he's either not seeing it, he doesn't swing at it, and when he does, low slug. It is low slug. But normally I would have numbers that would back that up on a side note or career against Strider's curveball. I don't have that here. But the right on right changeup is good. You can go right on right changeup all day long. Again, it doesn't apply to Strider in this moment, but it's just one of those things you keep in your mind. You bring a guy in. Oh, this guy's got a little splitter changeup. It all applies. And all this stuff, like when a guy's a curveball over a slider kind of guy, you have to look at your scouting report. You have to look at what the pitcher is actually, what his pitch actually does. Stott versus right-handers. This guy is ultra patient. For a young hitter, he is super patient. You have to locate the fastball down and away, middle to down and away, and handles up and in really well, which is crazy that you're going to throw a guy not up and in, but he's leaving the entire down and away area for you, and he has increased his ability to hit the fastball. That's been well documented. He does not recognize curveballs, but he handles sliders and cutters. Crazy. Watch how that plays out throughout this series. He is above average success on the sliders and cutters. And the last guy I'll get to here is the regular 7. They kind of platoon the other guys, is Real Muto. And a guy that I think this series kind of hinges on, somebody that can lengthen their lineup a lot, is the catcher Real Muto. Versus right-handers, he handles fastballs all over the zone. But you have to change locations because he can hit the ball down and in. He can hit it up and away. He can hit the ball down and away. Up and in is where you want to throw the fastball, but you can't miss down and into him with the heater. Curveball, slider, and cutter from righties have all been good anytime. And if you throw a changeup, you have to bounce it. All right? So we'll quickly run through the Phillies lineup versus lefties when you think about a Max Fried matchup and how they'll attack them. Versus lefties, Schwarber, ultra patient throughout. Minimized damage on a fastball. It must be located away. He's got short arms. All damage against lefties is in. He has seen 90 curveballs this year and has 1 home run. And the slider and cutter in 328 sliders and cutters that he's seen, he's hit 2 homers. Okay? Watch that matchup with Fried and Minter. Minter throwing more of a cutter slider, Fried more of a curveball. I think the advantage goes to Schwarber against Fried than it does against Minter. Turner versus lefties. Ultra aggressive on the base paths. Has not been thrown out yet. He handles the slider and cutter the best he ever has in his career from lefties. He's struggling with curveballs and changeups. Fried will give him problems because there's not much slug versus his curveball. If he goes away from the curveball and he throws him that heater, it's going to be whacked. Harper may hit 4th in the lineup when he faces Fried, but he is ultra aggressive versus lefties. You have to stay down and away with the fastball up across so you can finish him up above the zone. He also struggles with the curveballs, but he handles the fastball, slider, cutter. So he's trying to get to that bullpen. He's trying to get Fried out of the game, so he may be a little bit more patient. Boom. Probably their biggest threat versus lefties in the lineup. He's hitting, his slug is over 600 versus lefties. Fastball location has to be according to the situation. He handles it away and up and in. His lowest batting average is a curveball and changeup, but the changeup has to be middle bounced, meaning it has to start below the zone and go down out of it to get him for weak contact. Then we go to Castellanos, another ultra aggressive. A lot of ultra aggressive first pitch swingers here, but they know the zone. Stay out of the middle with the fastball. Body line in, meaning fastballs in the entire strike zone, but all the way up and down the body line. Down and in, middle in, up and in is great for Castellanos. And the changeup is in play at any time. His numbers on changeups are awful. Lefties can hammer him with changeups, and you throw curveballs over sliders to him from left-handers. Stott will be the last one I'll hit on here, and then we'll go to the Braves. But Stott is ultra patient against lefties. But what you have to remember, because you hear all of the stuff about Stott changing his MO where he can't hit a fastball, left on left fastballs this year, he has 0 home runs. He still wants the ball in. He has 0 home runs on left fastballs. I would have a tough time throwing him anything but fastballs if it's a 0-0 game, 1-run game, that kind of thing where he can't do damage, because he will not hit a home run against me as a left-hander if we locate the pitch down across, down and in, down middle, down away. And I think Max Fried is really able to do that. All 3 of his home runs versus lefties are on cutters and sliders. So I want to watch that Minter matchup with Minter and Stott. Remember that for the 8th inning of one of these games. All right, we're going to move on to the Braves and try to speed it along here a little bit. Facing them in the first game is going to be Ranger Suarez. Ranger Suarez, while everybody's going to pick Strider to be the guy, has actually had better numbers against the Braves than Strider has had against the Phillies. Suarez is 2-2, which isn't as great as 8-1. I understand that. So the W's and the L's are different, but he has a 1.00 ERA. He has given up 1 run. And it basically came in 2 outings where he gave up, I think, 5 and 6 runs in back-to-back outings last year. So this is an interesting matchup where I'm thinking you go in the BetMGM app and maybe you go first 5, an under number that you like the pluses that they're giving you. I think it's going to be low scoring early, and then there's going to be some fireworks late when these 2 guys get out of the game. But right out of the gate, you're going Ronald Acuna versus left-handers. The backdoor slider works. He will chase fastballs up and in. But you know what? It's okay. He's the first batter of the game. He is the MVP. He will be voted the MVP, and you want to keep him from rounding the bases. And I understand you want to keep him off the bases, but he has been caught stealing. Ranger does a great job of holding runners, and I think it's an opportunity that you have to not let this guy beat you. To me, you look at the lineup, and the second time, third time through, Ronald Acuna is the guy you do not let beat you. And he is very patient until 3-0 and 3-1. He has above average swing rates in those counts. So he wants to get it done. The fastball damage is middle throughout the whole zone. So the middle of the plate throughout the whole zone on fastballs. He struggles against lefties with sliders and cutters comparatively, not comparatively to the league, comparatively to everybody else in or every other pitch that you're going to be able to throw to Ronald. So he handles the off-speed down. So if you can land a curveball, you are ahead of the game as a left-hander. Now, righties, it's a little bit different. He stays on the slider, and almost the majority of his damage is on slider cutter. So you want to make sure you're staying out of that down across right-handed with the slider. But you have to stand him up. If Ranger doesn't stand Ronald Acuna up in the first game, meaning move his feet, throw a ball up and in, then you are going to get no chases on the changeup away. And the rest of his team is going to have to do work later. You see Ronald all the time. Huge elbow guard, doesn't want to get hit. Make him pissed. You get 3 or 4 at-bats of opening that plate up for whatever you need. All right, and then you're moving to Matt Olson. Matt Olson, you locate the fastball away on the entire lane while he is a long, low-handed, high-finish batter. You'd think he wants to extend out. A lot of his damage on fastballs are middle to middle in, and he's expanded that where it's actually he's able to get to the ball up and in. So lefties, there is an open lane down and away for your fastball. Double up on your curveball is fine, but the second one has to be bounced. If it's not bounced, his vision of the curveball this year has been incredible. So his damage on the curveball has been even better than I've ever seen it in the last few years. He's got good plate discipline. His slider damage is middle to middle in. So that means, again, away is open. You see him going the other way with pitches. They're normally middle to middle down. If you stay in your lane down and away, which is a quality strike, he runs out of bat. Austin Riley, ultra aggressive first pitch. Stay across with the fastballs. What does that mean? It means you stay across the zone with the fastballs. He wants to get the ball down, and he's able to hit more home runs on balls that are in, and that is how he clipped. That's how he clipped Ranger. He has a home run against Ranger, and it was a cutter up and in on him. So you kind of slowed his bat down a little bit instead of the fastball that you can throw to get up and in on him. So you got to make sure you stay out of his lane. Avoid the curveball as much as possible, except for a backdoor curveball. Again, he runs out of bat. He has to lean out to get that curveball, which induces weaker contact. And you can bounce the curveball. He will chase, especially in this environment where the energy's running and he wants to get the job done too, especially righty-lefty. Hammer him with sliders and cutters backdoor. Do not let his short arms get to an inside slider. I just don't feel like you can get it to his back foot. He clips it out front too often. But the backdoor slider is something that is super, super it's there the entire at bat. There is such weak contact in the lane, outer lane. It doesn't even have to be painted down and away. It can be just a super aggressive in the lane slider cutter, which will be good for Ranger. Even though he does like to go inside has to be for a ball. Okay? Probably going to be Murphy next. I think Murphy will probably hit next. I don't know their lineup, especially the rotation of their lineup, exactly where they're going to be, but the same guys are always in every day. He's patient overall. Sean Murphy's patient overall. Most damage is on the fastball, but he struggles this year. He struggled this year with sliders all season. 100 sliders that he has swung at. He is only 41% of them that he's hit, equaling 1 hit on a slider this year. So if I have a slider from a lefty, maybe not Ranger, maybe Ranger doesn't want to throw that pitch, but you think about coming out of the bullpen, that's a matchup that I like as the Phillies. Alvarado throwing that, I mean, anytime Alvarado's throwing 94-mile-an-hour sliders, I think it's a good pitch. But it is a pitch that I think will definitely be utilized, and you think about that as you go through this lineup. If you're looking for a second-best pitch, changeup is your second-best pitch in this situation, and I think Ranger will have an opportunity to execute that pitch. All right? Now you're going to the big bear, Ozuna. He's aggressive later in the at-bat. He's almost like a choosing to swing before he knows what the pitch is going to be. Kind of, he's patient, and then he gets more aggressive versus lefties. This is also a guy, as Real Muto needs to know, he's almost flipped from versus right-handers to versus left-handers. So when they bring in a Jeff Hoffman, they have to face him, they have to attack him differently than they do when Ranger's in there. So this is for Ozuna. Marcell Ozuna is aggressive later in the at-bat. You had to attack him up across with fastballs. Last year, he could not handle the fastball down or the changeup. Now he's hammering them. So whatever you knew about him last year, his zone, his vision is now lower in the zone, so you have to raise those fastballs up. You have to get him out across the zone. Some of the highlights you're seeing are middle. Obviously stay out of middle with a guy that has this many home runs. But the backdoor slider is your best off-speed pitch. He sees the slower curveball. He doesn't see the backdoor slider, which seems like a very common trend with this Braves team, that they are able to hammer very similar pitches closer to them, down in the zone, and Ozuna making that adjustment because last year he could not. Last year and earlier in his career, back to 18, I remember he couldn't handle the ball. He couldn't handle the ball down, but he could handle the ball up in the zone. Now I'm going to go to Michael Harris, the second. While he doesn't have a lot of numbers versus lefties, make your pitches quality down and away. Only damage is on sliders. Maybe similar approach that the Phillies are going to, or that the Braves are going to approach Stott. Similar type of numbers versus the fastball versus lefties. He can't see and he can't hit the curveball. The numbers show he doesn't want to swing at it. The numbers show his slug is very low, and I think Ranger can take advantage of that. Last guy I'm going to hit on here, obviously Travis d'Arnaud may come in the game too. Who knows who's going to be catching him, but that's an in-game or that's a pre-game. We already have all the information down. We'll make the adjustment. Is Orlando Arcia. Normally Orlando Arcia until this year has been a very just swing type of player. He's a very aggressive, athletic hitter. So you look at it and you're like, oh, he can hit so many pitches, and now he's starting to drive the ball out of the ballpark. He is a auto take or an auto swing guy. Him and Eddie Rosario are two guys that I sit there and I go, okay, I would tell the pitcher he's 0-2 all the time. What that means is doesn't matter if it's 2-0 or 0-2, you're attacking him on the edges because he's going to swing. And the weaker contact's going to be off the edges. If you feel like, oh, I got to come to this guy, I got to come to him, he's up in the count. There's, I don't want to go, this is probably going to be your 9-hitter, 8-hitter, depending on where the lineup's at. And I don't want to go and face Ronald Acuna with our Orlando Arcia on first base. I understand that, but don't panic. He is an 0-2 all the time kind of count guy. He's going to swing. Quality pitches on the edges will get him. You go fastballs up across. He wants the ball down for damage. And his most damage against the fastball has been down. Okay? Sliders over curveballs, and the changeup is good anytime. He wants the ball out over, meaning the down and away fastball may not be the best because he wants to get extended. As you see some of his highlights, he's getting extended on pitches. Okay, and as we go through the Braves right-handed, again, remember, we'll go through these quickly because Ranger's not right-handed and he's not going to throw any pitches right-handed, but you have to remember Ronald Acuna is the MVP, okay? His fastball nitro zone is down and in and up and away. It's like, oh, so where can you throw a fastball? Down and away, up and in. You have to move him with the up and in fastball to open up down and away. He's more patient this year than he's been. His worst numbers are down and away and up and in with the fastball. The slider needs to be a chase down off. Do not throw Ronald Acuna a strike slider. The heat zone, one day if we do these again, there's going to be a heat map that I'm going to put up on the board also. The heat zone it's crazy. Just remember, he is the MVP. That's not conceding to him. It just means if there's one pitch that he hammers from right-handers, it's that slider. But you say that, the changeup is good at any time. Lowest batting average of any of the pitches against is on the changeup. And I think a Jeff Hoffman curveball, I think a bounced curveball from Kimbrel plays. Kimbrel's fastball location has to be up and in. I don't want to make him throw me a fastball down and away. It's not a strength of Kimbrel's because when I tell him to throw a fastball down and away, that thing's going to ride and it's going to go up and away. And where did I say the MVP's nitro zone was? Up and away. So you go to Olsen, okay? Now he's relatively patient versus right-handers. You keep the fastball up and away, kind of like a little bit we were talking about old Bruce Harper there. Similar with Olsen. You stay with a steady mix of fastball and off-speed. Curveball over slider. Do not try to throw him a back foot slider. Backdoor slider is fine, but a backdoor curveball is better. Doesn't have to be special. It's always there, almost like a free strike. Not that you can constantly just feed curveball machine like you could a Max Muncy. More of fastball up and away, curveball off of that, bounce slider, fastball up and away, curveball off of that. It's all about sequencing and understanding where his weaknesses are. This year, compared to last year, he did not hit changeups very well at all. He would swing through them. And I think because he's starting to drive the ball to all fields, he's staying on changeups, and he is absolutely hammering them. He is hammering them to left. He is hammering them to right. Do not throw him a strike changeup. Doesn't mean you can't throw it to him. Just means I want to see it bounced. Okay, Austin Riley, ultra aggressive. So you go from a patient hitter who kind of lulls you to sleep with Matt Olson to Austin Riley. He's coming out ready to rip. So you have to be aware of that. You have to know that he's ready to go. He has less damage on fastballs down. So he kind of wants to see the ball up, and it wants to be closer to him, but up across is where he does his damage. You got to see it down. He will chase above the zone. Anytime we talk about somebody's hot zone, nitro zone, it's an opportunity to go outside of those areas. The hottest area is going to be the most chase. So if you can figure out how to get Austin Riley to chase above your fastball and make sure you have a pitcher on your staff that is going to throw the pitch up, almost to the point where Real Muto might need to stand up out of the crouch a little bit to really get your pitcher to throw that pitch up. It's a good pitch. It's a strikeout pitch that can get you out of jams. Slider over curveball. Okay? He will pound the curveball if you try to throw a get-me-over curveball. He sees it, and he sees it long. He sees it really well. He will chase, but it has to be away. You need to make sure that you stay in the areas where he can chase. Okay? So the slider over the curveball, and you can throw the changeup down and away. He will run out of bat. Okay, Ozuna. versus righties. Fastball is better than the fastball is better than versus lefties. You stay down with the fastball. Isn't that crazy? He's hitting left-handed fastballs down, so you stay up. He's hitting right-handed fastballs up, so you need to stay down. This is one on Real Muto that he's going to have to be able to really see, but there's a lane the whole way down for Ozuna, and you can go curveball over slider, and the changeup works throughout, which is, again, it's flipped from last year. Before, it was slider over curveball. Now it's curveball over slider. Going to go to Orlando Arcia, ultra aggressive. You got to keep the fastball out of middle and down and in. Okay? So he wants to extend on lefties, and he wants the ball in on righties. Anytime a guy wants the ball fastballs down and in, he is susceptible to the slider down and away, to the curveball down and away. Quality curveballs and sliders down and away are open through the entire at-bat. Michael Harris II, ultra aggressive, ready for the fastball down and away, and body line in off is best, meaning he will chase fastballs in off from down and in, middle in, to up and in. He recognizes sliders and curveballs really, really well. He wants the ball down. Okay, so you cannot just land off-speed pitches. It is open for a backdoor slider anytime throughout the at-bat. But if you stay out there and the slider lands low, he has a better shot of hitting it. And his changeups against is great anytime. It's a low, I think it's almost 160, I think, slug against changeups. That just means he is not staying on the ball. He is going to the pitch down, and he has chase numbers below the zone with the changeup. Okay, Eddie Rosario is going to be in there against righties. He might even be in there against lefties. He is another 0-2 count all the time guy. Okay, and you look at a guy who hits the ball up and away, down and away, up and in, down and in, and he has hot zones. It looks like chicken pox on his heat map. You look at all these things and you're like, how am I going to throw him anything? It's okay. You don't have to throw him strikes in the zone with your fastball. It sounds crazy because the big leagues is all about attacking guys. You throw him a curveball at any time. He does not see it. He has 2 extra base hits versus the curveball this year. 2. That is a go-to area that you need to make him show you that he can do damage on that pitch. And when I say a curveball, you look at a Jeff Hoffman. I keep bringing up Jeff Hoffman. He's the guy that keeps popping in my mind coming out of the bullpen. Yes, it might be a slider type of spin, but it has a down action like a curveball. That plays. And the lane is wide open. It is wide open for curveballs in the zone throughout the entire at-bat for less damage. He has, again, 2 extra base hits versus the curveball. And the last one I'll go to is Murphy versus right-handers. It is all about minimizing damage. He has the highest batting average on curveballs, but the lowest slug. He has the highest slug versus changeups, but the lowest batting average. So you think, okay, well, what does that mean? It's super unique, but you got to think in the situation, okay? So if I know I cannot get hurt by a single here, I can't go to the curveball. I can't get hurt by the single, I'm going changeup, okay? It's a high slug. There's a chance he's gonna hammer it if I leave it middle up on a changeup, but if I keep it down, that pitch is going to give me outs. It's going to give me strikeouts. If we're winning by 3 runs, I don't need him. Now I'm getting confused. I'm okay if he gets a single. I know this team gets guys on and everyone hits a home run. I get that, but you're going batter by batter, pitch by pitch. And he has the highest batting average, but he's not going to put the ball out of the ballpark. So you're keeping him in the ballpark, and that's the biggest thing. So if you want to see more, of me exhaustively talking about this. Scouting reports can be super boring. Check out Foul Territory TV, and we'll really talk about it. We'll give our opinions. All this to say, this is an opinion. This is going to be a great series. A matchup from last year's NLDS where the bedlam at the bank, Rhys Hoskins slamming bats. We're going to have the MVP versus the former MVP. There's so many storylines here that is exciting for this divisional matchup that we're going to see here in the next five games. I think it's going to be a 5-game series, but you got to tune into Foul Territory to see who I think is actually going to win the series.